Welcome back, my politically aware, nation-loving buddies. According to the legacy media, Pence will be testifying before the January 6th committee. What is he looking to gain? Plus, did Trump lie about requesting the National Guard? Or did Pelosi and Bowser refuse his request? Or is he lying again about lying about everything again? If you recall, the legacy media, our taxpayer-paid politicians, and all our Trump-hating friends spent all our time and all our money obsessing with what turned out to be a hoax fabricated by our favorite agency that protected us so well during the entirety of 2020. And our favorite politician, who will remain nameless, and her attorney. Guess who? Oh, what fun that all was. And I have a feeling they're going to have us relive this again and again and again and again and again until somebody says, stop. Common sense must prevail. And the only way we're going to survive is if we get along and love each other as Americans, or respect each other and treat each other as deserving free Americans. But that's only in free America. But anyway, come along for the ride. And even if you're a Trump hater, I respect you. The Trump people love you. There isn't I would suggest, if you don't believe me, I know January 6th was like, what the heck happened there? I have no idea. But any Trump rally have always been nonviolent. There's never been any violence unless there were protesters that came in and were being violent. But people who were not white, or the people that were told that Trump people hate you, many of them have gone to these rallies and they found that they were completely wrong about Trump supporters and about Trump. They were welcome. Nobody treated anybody like, oh, you're this religion or that religion, or this ethnicity, or this race or that race. No, we were just all one underneath like a tent. And Trump is always like a stand-up comedian. But as it always turns out, so far, when you really research things for yourself, or after everything is said and done, you realize, I'm going to say 99%, I don't know about 100%, because I'm allowing for failure. And I'm allowing for lying, because I'm going to go and I'm going to research. I'm going to find out, did he really lie? Is he really fabricating this? I always try to give both sides a little bit of light. But anyway, there's a possibility. Exaggerations, we're going to assume is exaggerations, definitely. By the way, I don't know about you, but we all kind of do that. We kind of emphasize certain things and de-emphasize other things, just like the legacy media always emphasizes certain things and de-emphasizes other things. Then you need to get the real picture, kind of put things together, and you kind of like, wait a second, we have to adjust the focus here. And then you realize, and then, oh, wait a second, this bit was left out. Or this looks really bad for Trump. He looks like he's lying. And then you put other pieces that aren't there. Because sometimes if you eliminate certain pieces, kind of like you X certain things out or you add things, you can make the picture look exactly like you wanted to, rather than the way it was. But anyway, in this case, as in all cases, I try to check for the truth. So let's get into the article. Let's see what's going on now. Who's right? Was Liz Cheney right? Is she right, as all Trump's haters are? right to hate him? Of course, if you consider his policies and everything he did do for the country and how great the economy was for this pandemic hit, God only knows how that happened and who decided what and why did they decide it and why were other things not considered and why did we treat this pandemic differently than we've treated every pandemic that's ever been, or just the common cold, which if you're an asthmatic or an elderly person can kill you, and the flu can also kill you. People die every year of the flu and colds and all sorts of things because their physical bodies can't get over them. But we seem to forget that there's nutrition in food and there's all sorts of other things that make things better. And I won't say any more because we're not allowed to in this country. But anyway, it's interesting how the CDC is letting up on those regulations now. But anyway, here's this article. I've got 3 articles I'm going to look at. We're not going to read them all. Don't worry about it. But I'm going to start with this article. And we're going to get into also, did Trump fail us? Was Trump missing in action? That's MIA, missing in action. And what happened to the 1,400 hours of footage from that day? Where is it? Why can't we see it? Have they looked at it? Why are people still locked up, as we've heard, in solitary confinement? Why is there a grandmother who has cancer, who needs treatment? Why is she also locked up? When what we know, she walked in, she sat down, and a lot of people were pushing a lot of people in. And the doors were also opened by the people inside, as letting them come in. So if that happened, we're the attorneys. Anyway, let's not go into that. But anyway, we're going to pray for all those concerned, from the people at the Capitol who are protecting the Capitol. And we're going to pray for anybody who did anything wrong, because everybody's got to see the light one day and have a come to Jesus moment, or come to Allah moment, or come to Hashem moment. How about that? Hashem. Or the other various gods, wonderful gods in all the different religions of the world. How about that? But anyway, people see the light. It's like cultivating the light, doesn't matter what religion. Anyway, so if there's misunderstandings, we pray that everything comes out and everyone is treated fairly and according, blind. Lady Justice is supposed to be blind, and everyone gets truth, justice in the American way, like Superman, kind of like that. Huh? Don't you wish Superman or Wonder Woman or something like that came back? And anyway, somebody from the past, like our founding fathers, coming back and say, what are you doing? What the F are you people doing? No, they wouldn't swear, probably. No, wait. Benjamin Franklin swore a lot. He's a dirty, dirty guy, by the way. But anyway, he was fun, and they were all intelligent, and they really didn't want slavery. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the slavery debate. But anyway, it's hard to talk about that day, and it's hard to talk about that event. And you kind of know we're put in a place, if you want to talk about it, nobody knows if they can or they can't. Some people can talk of it, and some people can't talk about it. And I understand there's certain things I can say, and there's certain things I can't say. So anyway, let's get into that. And let's see if we can pull out who may have done what and who may have not done what, and what certain things are exaggerated. But anyway, all right, let me get into the article. There we go. Oh, there they are. Look at them. Let's read the article. Let's see. Article big, me small. There we go. Okay. There it is. Ooh, let's look at the title. Mike Pence broke the Constitution on January 6th, but only to save it. We knew what Trump didn't do on January 6th. Now we know more of what he did. Oh, this is evil, evil, evil Trump. Okay, June 29th. Oh, that was this year that this came out. June 29th. Ooh, the many disturbing allegations made by the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th. The most unnerving of them may be the claim it made in the first hearing on June 9th. In those tumultuous hours, the committee alleged our constitutional order broke down. Cheney, wonderful Cheney, beautiful blonde, golden hair, beautiful figure, kind of like Wonder Woman, this whole thing going on there. And anyway, she's going to be taking a vacation soon. It's going to be sad we're not going to see her. But anyway, she just, according to this article, let me just give you a highlight. She loves Pence. She loves him. She thinks he's great. I don't know if she'll vote for him, or maybe she's going to run for president and make him vice president. Or he's going to run and make her vice president. I have no. But it's a love fest between the two. He looks so warm. She looks so warm and milk toasty and powder milk biscuity, that never, I didn't think I would see a politician technically more white. Actually, well, let's say because you remind me of Elmer's glue. See that cow on the bottle? He looked like a bottle of Elmer's glue. And what's the other one that was even whiter than him? Oh, Senator Robert Byrd, who has the Democrat from West Virginia, same seat, Joe Manchin, West Virginia. Robert Byrd, grand exalted cyclops of the West Virginia KKK, now has his bronze statue in that very Capitol Rotunda. So he was called the conscience of the Senate, the guy who was the grand exalted cyclops of the West Virginia KKK. That's how messed up everything is, by the way. So he was there all in bronze, looking at everything that was going on. And maybe he was calling out for something. Anyway, as far as white goes, they're all in order. I don't know which of the three is the whitest, but you know what? Out of all of them, Ghoulie white, said he. Robert Byrd became Ghoulie white. McCain was very white. I don't know if it was Ghoulie white, but Pence, I keep forgetting his name, sorry. He looks a little dry to me, kind of like he's been out for a very long time. He's kind of drying up. You just, no personality. Like you, probably wasn't excited about him, but he balanced the ticket. Basically a lifelong politician, except when he stopped. He was governor. He was also of his state, Indiana. We should say this wonderful experience he has. He was the governor of his state of Indiana, and he also was a representative in Congress for the state of Indiana. So he knows everyone. He knows about the swamp. He swam in the swamp up and down, and with all those things going on, like the interns. And remember what we found out in 2017 when Trump became president, that there was $18 million paid out to the interns for sexual indiscretions by the politicians in that building, the Senate, and we're talking about the Senate and the Congress. And that goes back a long way that these things happen. We know that Ted Kennedy and Chris Dodd used to sit on the floor of the Senate and ask them which of the interns gives the best. But that also goes back to his brothers. That was we don't know what happened before that. But I find it interesting that the victims had to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreement. So we have people in office that we look up to and we think are great, who may be guilty of some awful crimes, like the crimes they're trying to pin on Trump. I'll try to pin everything on Trump. But it's interesting that we found out, none of us knew about it. We found out about that. I think it's very interesting when you think about it. And people out there, I'm sure some of them were Democrats. It's got to be. Law of averages. Ted Kennedy, Christard, were they Democrat? Were they both Democrat? Or one was Democrat, one was Republican? Or they just switched the R and the D around every once in a while? So before you say that it's only Republicans, or it's only Trump, or it's only this or only that, we know that this fund, which is paid by us, by the way, which is paid by you and me, goes into litigating this and getting the victims to sign an NDA, never speak of it again. You're voting these people in and out of office, and you could possibly be looking up to these people as if, dirt doesn't stick to them. But some of them are very guilty. We don't know who. We can't imagine who. I'm not alleging. So anyway, nobody's perfect. But it was horrible what happened that day. Absolutely horrible. And I don't know who was there, but according to Trump rallies, this never happens. Nobody expected it to happen. I never could imagine that on that day, other than a lot of people feeling that a lot of things changed, a lot of things were different about that election. Though it was free and fair, I just love the fact they got it right in 2020. And they had it all wrong in 2016, but they were wrong during the Bush era, right? He was an illegitimate president too. They called him illegitimate. Those 8 years he had in office, illegitimate, not the president. Gore should have been president, and then Kerry ran. Kerry wanted to have, he was a Democrat, if you don't remember. McCain is his vice president, who was claimed to be Republican, but more on the Democrat side, really. But for that, it was Clinton twice. That was clean. For that was George Bush, but who the hell knows what happened there. We found out that the Bushes are great now because they hate Trump. Makes sense. I love the way the country runs. Makes perfect sense. You're told and allowed to like Bush now as long as he hates Trump. Whoever hates Trump, then you can like them. But he was the devil. He was worse than the devil before Trump. But now he's a good guy because he's good friends, what do you know, with the Clintons and with Obama and Michelle Obama and their family. They're all friends. Which is show. Anyway, the elections were all, except for the Bush thing, all legitimate, except for the Bush thing. But then when Trump ran in 2016, that was bad. That was very bad. Putin. We found out that was a hoax. Okay, sorry. All right. And then 2020, free and fair election, and everybody should have cheered. But what happened was a lot of people saw a lot of crazy things happening. It was difficult. We had the COVID, we had the riots, we had the burnings, all of the cities, and all sorts of violence and things happened to people and destruction. And they went on for a long, long time, along with the COVID. And then the riot at the Capitol happens. Don't know if that was a powder keg. People were sad. People were scared. I don't know. Likelihood that I wouldn't be in a big crowd of people like that is pretty high. And nobody expected anything to happen, especially people who go to Trump rallies regularly. Nothing ever happens. And there's no racist events. The only violence that ever happens are people who come in to protest that have to be escorted out. But that's the only thing that happens. People on the outside. People who hate Trump. That's what usually happens. That's why no Trump supporter expects anything to happen. But people were worried, people were scared, and hey, people were protesting through 2020 after George Floyd's killing. And we saw what happened there. That was a lot of angry protests, a lot of burning things in cinder. So people went to the rally, and I think Trump may have, I shouldn't put words into his head, but if you feel that you can protest, because the protests were not on Trump, there were not Trump people protesting in 2020, and people, I believe that people needed to have their voices heard. I know there were a lot of people who maybe didn't even go to the protest, but felt they wanted their voices heard. And I'm sure a lot of people who went to the rally wanted to have their voices heard. And I think he said, now go and peacefully and patriotically protest. Peacefully and patriotically, which is what I would not describe the riots of 2020 as. And there were some people in those groups. We don't have there's 1,400 hours of footage that they won't let us see. We know there are people in solitary who haven't been charged. And the interesting thing is, it shouldn't be, don't look at me and say, well, you shouldn't be saying that. Somebody out there says, don't talk about that. We know about it. If we know about it, that was leaked. They let us know this. There's a reason why they let us know this. And I'm sure the reason would be, don't do this or else this is going to happen to you. That is probably a good message to say to everybody who protests, especially violent protests. Don't do this or something's going to happen to you. That's why we know about what's going on with the people who haven't been charged, who are still in solitary, including that grandmother who walked in and sat down. They let her in, she sat down, she was tired, she's got cancer, she needs treatment, and she's not allowed to get that. But anyway, amongst those horrible, horrible things that happen in those tumultuous hours, as MSNBC says, the committee alleged our constitutional order broke down. Liz Cheney, Republican from Wyoming, lives in Virginia, informed the nation that the rumors suggesting the then Vice President Pence had played a key role coordinating. She's saving his hide, right? I guess because she's a Republican. He was great. He was fantastic in coordinating with the Pentagon on the day of the attack. Actually minimized his efforts. She said Pence, who is himself under siege. See, Pence was under siege too, in the basement of the Capitol. Now, that sounds scary. Basement of the Capitol. But as you know, so you can stop worrying about, our leaders. Thank God there's a bunker underneath it that was designed. This is not top secret. I heard this on television. This is true, by the way. Everybody knows this. That there's a bunker underneath where our government can still function, thank God, for if there's a war and basically the city is gone, they can live in that bunker. There's food for them indefinitely. It's very comfortable housing. It also takes them to their offices. Ocasio-Cortez was in her office, but her life was threatened during what was going on at the Capitol. Her life was threatened, by the way. Very, very scary for her. But, close enough, same city, close enough. She's scared. Well, thank God. She's marrying a beautiful, what a handsome guy. Did you see the guy she's marrying, by the way? Anyway, I like to know what goes on and what brought them together. Or what binds them. Anyway, so that's where he was. So if you say he was, crouching like in your basement, that's probably not nice or probably not decorated. Or the basement of your apartment building or home or wiki up, whatever the heck people are living in now, or will be living in. It was a comfortable place, and though they say they were able to come back upstairs because of his efforts, they could have done it down there. That's what it's designed for. The functioning of our entire government can still run, even if there's a nuclear attack, and all of us are wiped out. They will be safe, and they will be there. And don't think about getting in, because that is a heavily protected place, and it should be, because our government needs to function. Absolutely. We don't want chaos. We don't want violence. We don't want disorder. We want law and order, and we want people to live peacefully and safely. Anyway, she said Pence, who was himself under siege in the basement of the Capitol, ordered the deployments that quelled the riots. Not quashed, but quelled. It's more peaceful. He had no choice. Former President Donald Trump had done nothing, even though Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill and other allies begged him. The word begged is in quotes, begged him to intervene, she said. Trump, Cheney said, didn't call to his defense secretary, attorney general, or the Department of Homeland Security on January 6th, gave no order to deploy the National Guard that day, and made no effort to work with the Department of Justice to coordinate and deploy law enforcement. She said he did nothing. We're talking everybody. He did a thing. He just sat there and twiddled his thumbs, or I heard at one point he stuck his finger in his ears and he hummed. I don't want to hear it. But Mr. President, you must help. Absolutely, that was bad, and that just like during those riots, all 2020. Well, anyway, and made no effort to work with the Department of Justice. Wow, the power of the presidency to issue such orders does not, however, devolve to the vice presidency. These powers that Trump has, which they didn't want him to use, because if he had the code to the nuclear football, he'd set it off all the time. Like every second, beep, it would go off all the time. See, that's what he did when he went and he met with Kim Jong-un. And he was the first president that walked from South Korea to North Korea without his secret security detail, just with Kim Jong-un. He walked over, and then when he came back to South Korea over the line, Kim Jong-un, you could tell they were buddies, was turned as if he was turned closer to Trump and was afraid of these people. It looked like he was afraid, and he actually felt comfortable. That's because crazy dictator and crazy dictator, they love each other. They get along. That's what it is. And somehow, I don't know why it didn't happen. It should have happened. It was supposed to happen. Why nuclear bombs didn't just start going off all over the world when he met with his buddy, Kim Jong-un. I'm sure he met secretly with Putin at the same time. I'm sure, obviously. Anyway, so Trump is sitting there doing absolutely nothing, twiddling his thumbs, fingers in the air. Please, President, please do something, do anything. Pence is in the basement. You have to save us. You're the only one, Obi-Wan. You're the only one. You've got to help me. Anyway, so apparently Pence had to step up because Trump wouldn't do it. But Tuesday we learned why the former vice president apparently felt he had no choice but to take the reins of the military into his own hands. You can imagine him dressed in Washington on the Potomac, and he's dressed like that, except he's standing up and the waves are going crazy and they're crashing, nearly drowned. You see the people, guys in the boat are like, oh no, you gotta save us, Pence, dressed as Washington, save us from the Potomac, save us from the evil Trump people. And took the reins of the military, and the sky is swirling, and there's storms and lightning. The clouds are swirling like whirlpools, like in those paintings. And he took those reins like Wonder Woman's golden lasso of truth. Or you wrap it around guys and get the cleavage there. Tell the truth. By the way, if you don't know, she had a golden lasso. You wrap it around somebody and you pull on it, and they're forced to tell the truth. I don't know who made up Wonder Woman, but whoever it was a genius. Imagine how many pornos were created with that idea. I haven't seen them that way. I'm just imagining what that could be like. Anyway, so it was Pence as Washington, D.C. He's the whole city. Oh my God. He's the entire District of Columbia, which will be renamed very soon. But they're patriotic when they say Trump fails to be patriotic. They're patriotic, I think. Well, anyway, so he took the reins of the military into his own hands. And Cassidy Hutchinson, a witness of firsthand knowledge of events in the White House and the ellipse that day. It's funny because if you see, they have capitalized. See, where's White House, which is a place name, proper name, and Trump is a proper name. Pence is a proper name. Cassidy Hutchinson is a proper name. Somehow ellipse, is that a group that came in to sing that day? The White House, and on the ellipse that day is, see, notice that they're trying to emphasize, and they're probably thinking about how do I emphasize, Trump disappearing into some vortex or in the basement of the White House or into his little bathroom and, was trying to make the vaccine and his concoction for the vaccine that day. We don't know what the heck he was doing, but he wasn't doing his presidential duties. He's supposed to do them even if he's in a coma. No, not if he's in a coma. If he's on vacation or something. And Pence, if he's in a coma, then Pence can issue these orders, apparently. And Pence wasn't around then. Nancy Pelosi, and we'd say, oh, thank God, Nancy Pelosi's got the reins of power. Oh my God, can you imagine? Anyway, that day, testified that Trump didn't just fail to act, he refused to act. How strong a case did Cassidy Hutchinson make against Donald Trump? I don't know, but we're yet to find out, okay? And we're going to find out even more when Pence testifies, and he says he's going to consider it because guess what? He's running for president. Yes, he's running for president against Trump. And was he going to tell Trump how he failed to act and all this stuff? They're yelling on stage, you failed to act. And he's going to come in dressed like Washington, just like Hillary. I don't know if it was the first or second debate. She with her hair. You ever see a painting of Washington? And if you remember Hillary's hair, and she had the blue. I don't know. Nobody mentioned this. Nobody saw this. I saw the second she walked out. The blue suit she had on, navy blue, like the navy blue on the blue of the flag, and then the white lapels and her hair swept up in like a helmet, and she looked like, I think, trying to give you the impression that she looks presidential. And the way to make her look presidential, the first woman to break the ceiling, make her look like the first president, first woman. Nobody thought of this. I thought of this anyway. That was just amazing. She looked glowing. I think they were giving a little bit of fillers because after the election, everything kind of fell. But she was looking pretty darn good in her run the first time in 2008. She was actually looking really, really good. That was her time, by the way. That was her time. But they had to get the first African-American president. And they did, and what a wonderful job he did. And he brought us Biden. And all the magical things that President Biden does every day. Anyway, and you give him a golden lasso, God only knows what's going to happen. Then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, executive assistant, was as close as anyone to the principal figures under investigation for their conduct that day. According to her recollection, Trump didn't contact the military or federal law enforcement and didn't issue orders to protect the seat of American government because he didn't want to. He was sitting in his chair, stamping his feet. I can't hear you. You know what I mean? You never see a kid throwing a fit and doing it. That's exactly, or he was in the basement or in his little bathroom making flubber. Either one of the two. Referring to the U.S. Capitol, where a joint session of Congress had gathered to certify the results of the 2020 election. Absolutely. Hutchinson recalled telling Meadows that he needed to check in with Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio. She said she told Meadows the rioters are getting close. They might get in. And he looked at me and said something to the effect, all right, I'll give them a call. So Cassidy Hutchinson is talking to Mark Meadows. This is, I guess, this is her statement. No more than a minute or minute and a half later. A minute to a minute and a half later. That's great. This out. They want to emphasize that Trump disappeared. The ellipse, that's capitalized. That's a proper noun. That's an event in American history that we all have to remember. But this president doesn't exist. Like, he was an illegitimate president, what they used to say about Bush before they found out Bush hated Trump, probably because he made Bush look like a fool, because of how he turned this country around and we were prosperous. And how he, most of all, the reason why his brother Jeb is not president, because that entire family should hold the seat of the presidency. And they didn't, and it's all Trump's fault. All Trump's fault. But anyway, he exposed another do-nothing politician that's probably going to get us into another war and spend all our money and raise the taxes and stick the IRS on everyone. Something like that. Anyway, so Trump refusing to do those things is really bad. So in a way, it's really great that he's not president anymore, because we needed those things done. We really did. Because it isn't like we're suffering, because we're not suffering. Meanwhile, I'm picking up pieces of rice. Literally. Before I let pieces of rice go, little grains of rice go away or get away, not anymore. Things are that bad. Anyway, so the rioters have gone into the Capitol, Mark. We need to go down and see the president. Small p, never existed, totally illegitimate, subconscious. These things are proofread. And they didn't see it because subconsciously this is how they think of him. Also, even if it is conscious, they're giving you the impression when you're reading it, you're not seeing Trump. It's kind of like they really want to erase his whole presidency. It's like that, isn't it? When you go down, you take all that stuff out of Mar-a-Lago, just indiscriminately taking things and having a search warrant that basically says very broad, not specific. You kind of take everything. Presidents used to, for the first 200 or so years of the country, They used to take everything home. That's it. Their entire presidency, they were able to keep. And usually the president opens up, it's normal, expected, a library, the presidential library, and artifacts are there because it basically pays tribute to the entire presidency. Even if you're a failure, it pays tribute to it, and there's a certain respect, the presidential library. So he has nothing of his presidency. So basically, it's kind of like going in indiscriminately, taking absolutely everything, even though it says looking for these documents in this particular, you find the documents in this particular box. I don't know if you heard this, but everything around it, if there are boxes around, you take everything around it too. That's how you sweep up top secret stuff. But as it turns out, because I researched this, I went and I researched the law, like who can declassify things, and if it is the president. And I saw on Twitter this lawyer says, read it here. It's really funny, read it here. Let's see, I really should show you it. I've got the tab up still of the White House archive of Obama's presidency when it was an executive order. So it was not something that was voted on by the legislature. It was an executive order issuing from him and him alone, the way to declassify, the proper way of declassifying classified, highly sensitive classified information. And basically she's saying that here it is. And so she gives you a tab. I should show it to you. I should totally show it to you because it's enchanting. It really is. Here we go. Okay. So let's see. Stop. I shouldn't show it to you now. I'll show it to you later because you got StreamYard's a little slow because you have to stop sharing the screen. You have to hit all these buttons to share it. Just to share a screen where other people just click on it and bring things up, and the microphones don't feed into the other microphones. I got to find a different sharing stream. But anyway, I looked at this thing and I was reading it, and I was saying, this is going on very long. And then I hit the scroll down button. I think it was like 10 minutes later, I hit the bottom. She doesn't expect anybody to read the entire thing. So I go through it to see if I can actually zero into that spot. And then I type it in trying to find because I noticed this is Obama archive. It could have been changed, what we're looking at, because it could have been changed. And then I found apparently the guy who is the person who heads the archives, or the top secret office, was hired on January 5th of 2017. So it was hired by Obama in 2017. And it says that the different heads of the different branch, the executive branch, with the different offices in the executive branch, the head of these branches can declassify anything issued from their office within the executive branch. So he hires these people, which is Obama, who was the president. The law, he hires these people of all these agencies, and the head of these agencies can declassify it. But he's the head. So what I did was I typed it in to see if I could find something recently that would boil that down. And I did. I found a document from the White House, which was about declassifying information from September 11th. And within that, I could read through it, and basically you glean from it very clearly that this is the president. The president issues this executive order, which before would be the legislature who would decide these things. And then the president would sign it into law. But this is an executive order, which is issued by the president alone. And he hires the heads of the department, and he hires the head of these departments. And he can, they serve at the pleasure of the president, so that he doesn't have to give a reason to fire someone. He can just say, you're done. That's serving at the pleasure of the president. So very quickly, I realized, and I haven't made a live stream since I was talking about that wonderful Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to save America. Very clearly, it's when you read the legacy media, mainstream media, and then you hear other people who speak, no, they're attorneys, they're prosecutors, or they're former prosecutors, and they say that no, Trump can declassify anything at any time. If he wants to have a conversation with his son-in-law about something, that's declassified, him declassifying it. Remember Obama sold our nuclear secrets, military secrets, to, or he exposed them to China, and China actually gave money for his reelection, Clinton money for his reelection, and he gave them our secrets. And more is China is getting we're selling more of our industry over to China, and our top secret information is going over there. Subterfuges, and forget there's some other type of thing, aerospace and subterfuges. We're giving that secret military information to China. Now, just remember that drone went down while Obama was in office, and China took it and pretty much can, backwards, figure out backwards how the thing was made. They can get in there. So that was interesting how that just went down, where it went down. Or was that Iran? It was China or Iran. There's so many things. Just in case I'm wrong, it's either China or Iran. But anyway, Clinton did do that, by the way. And he got money from China for his campaign, which is not illegal. That is totally not illegal. It's wonderful. He's one of the best presidents ever. And so was Obama. And now you can say Bush. You can say Bush. Anyway, let's go back to the article. Okay. Well, I figured out that, yes, it was the Trump can do that. That's basically what I'm getting to. Yes, it's true. He can do that. He has all the power. And right now, he still has top security clearance right now. So him having these things is okay. Clinton took home things, and it's okay. He can do it. And Obama, and it was confirmed, though the MSM said that's not true, 33 million pages of documents that he said he wanted to put on the internet. And so he did. He still has them. So apparently presidents can do this. And according to what I read and surmised, and that girl, she was a Democrat, obviously, Democrat something. It's a kind of, but she said she was an attorney. And she said, oh, no, it's not true. So you link me to the entire executive order, which is a book. It's absolutely a book. And you think that somebody isn't going to read it. Well, guess what? I know legalese, and I read it. So sorry, I didn't come back on to explain all that, but I did read it, and I've got the document tab still up here. Well, anyway, she told Meadows the rioters are getting close. This is horrible. I'm sure everyone was. I would be scared. I would be scared. Even if they were, I was in there and I was for Trump, and I would still be scared. You never see me in large groups of people. I don't like to be in large groups of people. I would be scared. People coming in, making noise, droves of people. Some of them went through Nancy Pelosi's office. Absolutely, they shouldn't do that. They should be examples of the better way. But at the same time, I can imagine that, not doing that I'm not saying that was right. I'm saying that a rally and then peaceful protests. When we can see other people protest, they want to protest. Peaceful protests, though. People wanted to know that our representatives heard their voice. I can imagine, I'm just only imagining, that this might be the reasoning for the rally on the mall, the Trump's rally on the mall, that might be the reason. I'm not saying it is. I'm not taking away guilt or planting innocence. I'm just saying that I can imagine people wanted to be heard, wanted somebody to hear them. And there were other people who were there clearly to cause trouble. But I could see that some people wanted to be heard. And Trump did say, now go peacefully and patriotically protest. I heard that. If there's something wrong with that, if I'm mistaken about that, I apologize. I would hear that and I would peacefully and patriotically protest, which means I wouldn't do any violence. I wouldn't burn anything down. I wouldn't commit violence against anyone else. I would say, I want to be heard. I'm just going to peacefully and patriotically protest. And that means peacefully walk around, hold a placard, say something, maybe. I've never actually done that. Oh, yeah, I did that Poland Must Be Free march once. I still didn't. I just walked down the street with a sign. My girlfriend from school, from her church, and it wasn't my church, it was her church. And that's all I did, basically. I kind of remember there's a Polish soldier, and he looked at me. He goes, beautiful Polish girl. And he said, what's your name? And I said, think. Oh, yeah, Natasha Kinski, which I don't know what she is. She's not Polish. She's something else. Anyway, I just, Kinski, I said. She's beautiful. So I go, oh, beautiful woman. Kinski is a quick name. I just said as quickly. I didn't want to break this guy's heart. I didn't want to let him down because Polish women are beautiful. And there are many Polish women I've seen that are very, very beautiful. And so I just didn't want to deflate him and say, well, I'm actually half Italian. Part Egyptian. I didn't want to say a Jew. I just said Kinski, and I kind of like to make him feel good and I can keep feeling good. That, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes little fibs, just a fib. I didn't say my name is, I just said Kinski. Because I didn't want to break his heart. He had a lot of pride for his country. And there's a lot of beautiful Polish girls, by the way, and Polish men, too. Okay. No more than a minute and a half later, I go, let's just say, no more than a moment later, of whatever. It's like, they're precise because they're timing this and telling you what's happening on a blow-by-blow description. Hutchison continued, I see Pat Cipollone barreling down the hallway towards our office. Cipollone said, served as White House counsel. I remember Pat saying to him something to the effect of, the writers have gotten to the Capitol. Mark, we need to go down and see the president now. Yeah, the president with a small p. And Mark looked up and said, he doesn't want to do anything, Pat. Anyway, oh my God. We've long known that Trump did not do when the Capitol was what he did. What? We've long known what Trump did not do when the Capitol was under siege. We have not had any confirmation of what the president did do, besides flubber, as Hutchinson recalled. Cipollone wasn't as nonchalant as Meadows was about the president's abdication of his own sworn duty. He abdicated like a king. That's an abdication. That's what a king does. To protect the Constitution from its enemies, and told Meadows something like, Mark, something needs to be done or people are going to die and the blood is going to be on your fucking hand. Oh my God. Yes, somebody did die. And I know there's a lot of reports saying that some people died. I think Capitol Police the day after died of a stroke. But the family says it's totally unrelated. And yeah, police do die. I don't know if the Capitol Police are the same training as regular police officers or more. I have no idea. But things happen. And as police, you kind of expect things to you have to expect things, not good things, to happen. That's why you're the police, because that is your job, to keep the peace when things that are not good happen. But it's sad that he died the next day of a stroke. But the person that was killed by Capitol Security was a plainclothes security officer, Ashley Babbitt. Yeah, she died. And we do have the footage of that, so I'm sure you saw what happened, and you can judge for yourself. I'm not going to make any judgments. They literally calling the vice president to be. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. She recalled an exasperated Meadows replying, "You heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong." Oh my God. Do you realize what this is saying? We need to do something more. It's like, oh, this is, I have to read this. When the president's staff got word that the mob invading the Capitol was chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," who had told Trump that he was obligated to certify Joe Biden's election as president. Hutchinson said she heard Cipollone tell Meadows, "Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for vice president to be effing hung." She recalled an exasperated Meadows replying, "You heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong." Oh my God. I mean, if this is true, this is really awful. Doesn't sound like Trump, but this is true. This is terribly, terribly awful. We now have a credible allegation that Trump affirmatively supported the rioters' aims. Previously, the most charitable assumption that could be made about Trump's conduct that day was that he was apathetic towards the day's events. We now have a credible allegation provided voluntarily under oath and from an individual in close contemporaneous proximity to the president and his advisors, alleging that Trump affirmatively supported the rioters' aims. Doesn't sound like Trump. Doesn't sound like he's conducted himself anything that he's done, anything that we've seen or know of. This testimony about the president's state of mind from those best positioned, it must be evaluated within the context of Hutchinson's claims, what the president knew and when he knew it. Hutchinson claimed that Trump and his senior staff were informed by security officials that rally attendees were likely armed with weapons and could be wearing body armor. And we found out subsequently that nobody was armed or wearing body armor. I mean, that you had the QAnon shaman, nicknamed. I'm not sure. And I don't follow QAnon. I don't. I looked at it. I looked at people's response. I read on Reddit all sorts of things to see if there was anything predictive about QAnon that was secretly Trump sending out this message. And it looked like things didn't add up. So I walked away from it because it sounded a little iffy. He had horns on his helmet and he had his own cameraman. And we saw what he did because he had his own cameraman. But what we know is that nobody was armed or had body armor. nobody was armed or had body armor. I can imagine something might have broken out when Ashley Babbitt was shot. I know we're not supposed to say her name. I'm sorry. This might be, who knows what's going to happen. But when she was shot by a plainclothes officer or security guard, correct me if it's Capitol Police, it might be. And I may be saying something I shouldn't, but everybody pretty much knows this already. This has already been out. I can imagine if people were armed with body armor because they had some protection on, something more would have happened when that happened. I would think if they were actually armed. But this is another reason why we know that they weren't armed. But we knew this before this came out. Okay. There used the word ellipse again. This particular article, I'll leave the link to this article and you can read it yourself. Well, Pence is running for president. Good motivation. He says that he will consider, he and his people are going to consider testifying. And this was, we do know, we can think of other people who have said things under oath that we found out were different. And interesting, nothing happened to them. I think because it was against Trump. Some people that did. Anyway, I'm going to assume because you are aware of things that go on, I don't want to really say anymore. Wow. So, I'm going to click off of that. Now, the mystery is, did Trump actually, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Stop sharing the screen. Share screen. We'll share a different screen. See how long this takes? You got to hit Chrome tab. Two things that say share screen. Two windows say share screen. You got to click on. Click on Chrome tab and then find the thing here that you actually want to share. Now, did Trump claimed, and they say Hannity claimed, and other Fox has been lying about Trump requesting the 10,000 National Guard to protect the perimeter of the Capitol, saying that Trump's lying about that. And even the conservative-leaning New York Post also said that Trump did not order or request the National Guard to the Capitol to protect the Capitol on January 6th. And you know what? I'm going to leave that article because I don't want to make this too long. I want to click on the one I'm going to read because there's so many articles that say the opposite. And if you've been on this ride, we know that through the whole Russia hoax thing, turned out to be a hoax. And it will not mention who we know kind of created that. And most people don't know that. Most people are still pushing. Even my intelligent friend who's a Democrat, who somehow you trust what they say with no doubts, no thought. If the MSM says it, if the politicians say it's true, it's truth. The other side, who they hate and you are pointed to hate, must be lying. And he believes, and like he's older than I am, he's maybe over 20 years older than me. And he still thinks that Trump and Putin are lovers, kind of like the way Colbert put it once. I'm sure you know what he said. Okay, so I'm clicking on here because we know you can find millions of articles saying that's not true. Now this, I said, where is this? I mean, can I find some other source, like maybe he did not, these people that we're discussing here, and there's another set of people. So there are another set of people that he might have told. The evidence Trump requested 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th that fact checkers are ignoring. Now, can you see? I want to make sure that you can see. Okay, there you go. There you go. I want to make sure you can see it. Now, where was I? Is this it? Here it is. Okay. January 27th, 2022. Okay. Okay. I want to make this. Okay. Donald Trump claimed it. Tom Kirshner attempted to fact check Donald Trump's claim that he had requested 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th, which Pelosi denied. Trump first made the claim during a February 28th, 2021 interview with Fox. You notice that he's no longer on Fox. They no longer have him on Fox. And we found that Laura Ingraham said Trump should give up, but this is according to something else. There's so many things to remember. Yeah, Laura Ingraham, I saw the clip of her saying that Trump should drop it and step aside. And also Brett Baier said it too. What he did was horrible. Okay, they have their opinions. Brett Baier didn't seem to take sides. Usually doesn't take sides. And you didn't know if you liked him or didn't like him, but just as a reporter, as a journalist, you kind of like it's better not to take sides, just to report the truth. But kind of emotions get into things, and he's feeling like he's angry, he's emotional about this. So he's saying what his truth and his piece are. And Laura Ingraham, who seemed to be a supporter, thinks that Trump should also step aside. Okay, so when he asked, he thought, was anything he could have done differently? The host, Steve Hilton, Trump replied, "We said to the Departments of Defense, the top person, days before we had the rally, I requested, I definitely gave the number 10,000 National Guardsmen. I think you should have 10,000 of the National Guard ready. They took that number from what I understand. They gave it to the people at the Capitol, which is controlled by Pelosi, and I heard they rejected it because they didn't think it would look good. And it might not. Having all the National Guard there might kind of be intimidating. But I don't know why we saw footage of the doors open and the people at the Capitol who work there and a line of Capitol Police standing back. Why did this happen? In fact, I think the January 6th committee should question these people why this was done, because we saw this footage and we don't understand. We are confused. I don't know. Okay, so I think you should, which is controlled by Pelosi. I heard they rejected it. Didn't want to look good, so that was a big mistake. Sportsball's rebuttal as follows. He quotes an article, Far Left Fear. He quotes the article, go on and on. Now let's see. And so he's repeating what the other MSM legacy media have been reporting. And we hear that all the time. We don't hear other things, but we know from the Russia collusion, which turned out to be not real, that there's a lot of stuff that comes out and a lot of opinions and a lot of sources and things like that. So in this case, it's great. They have named sources, so maybe we can get to the bottom of it. Now, unlike most of my fact checkers, there isn't a case where there's a clear verdict. In fact, whether or not you believe Trump's claims boils down to which officials you happen to trust. Kirchner is only quoting those who contradict Trump, but there are others who seconded his claim. Former acting director of National Intelligence, Rick Grenell, blasted the fact check, stating that Kirchner is focusing on the lack of a formal request. But the leaders of the Pentagon then made clear that they offered Pelosi and said no. Okay, so Rick Grenell is saying something different. Blasted the fact checker, stating that Kirchner is focusing on the lack of a formal request. But the leaders of the Pentagon then made clear they offered Pelosi and she said no. Wrong, said Rick Grenell. PolitiFact is so left-wing. They focus on no formal request, but the leaders of the Pentagon then made clear they offered it to Pelosi and she said no. So it was not which, if that's the case, yes, he should have done a formal request. But I can imagine if you go to the Pentagon and you say, this is what you want done, and before going to great lengths, they ask Pelosi, to draw it up. It's a verbal agreement. You ask Pelosi to draw it up. And she said no. She refused to go any further, and she is in charge of the Capitol. They are on the record. This is proof. Okay. They are on the record. This is proof. So according to this, and the political fact says there is no proof, which I'm sure you read. Kash Patel, who served as acting United States Secretary of Defense, also supported the 10,000 National Guard claim, explaining to Hannity earlier that month. I was in the Oval Office that day, days prior to January 6th, with the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and others, and President Trump. Okay, these are pretty big, major people. And so you've got some people who worked for Trump. And of course, the woman with the thing with the person, and Trump jumped from the back of the limousine and took the steering wheel, or did he do anything else like strangle, or I'm not sure. I actually don't recall. I just know he lunged from the back seat. And that was under oath also. That was under oath. So we kind of don't know. So we've got contradicting witnesses. And I can imagine if you're in the Trump White House, and then everything that we've seen, anybody who's worked for Trump, who's close to Trump, everybody has been taken down, shackled in handcuffs. CNN, the lights out there, waiting for them to come out in their bathrobe and slippers and be hauled away with what turned out to be a complete, which is admitted, complete and total hoax. It's really sad, but they did arrest them. They did come in. They did take them in, and the MSM all over the place repeated and repeated and repeated. And we know that if you're working for Trump, or if you support Trump, you kind of, and you see the climate out there, you kind of, especially after January 6th, I can imagine you'd say, oh, no, I don't like him. No, I'm not for him. You can imagine, you want to walk away. And you can kind of understand there's some people that don't, and some people that want to wash the whole thing clean, especially with what happened at January 6th and what happened to the people who were arrested on January 6th. You don't want to be a part of that. And so you walk away. So I totally can understand why people want to distance themselves. Okay. Yeah, and see. I was in the Oval Office prior to January 6th. Okay. And he authorized, as the law requires, 10,000 to 20,000 National Guardsmen and women to be diverse, men and women, gender diverse. I'm sure, and every other gender. He wanted them all there. He wanted them representative there. And that's good. That's good. Because he said guardsmen, and specifically said guardsmen and women. So he wanted to cover everybody who was capable and wanted to be there, to be utilized around the country. But the second part of the law requires a federal agency or governor or mayor, such as the United States Capitol Police or Mayor Bowser, the mayor of D.C., and District of Columbia, what do you call it? Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. She's mayor of that city. Basically, it's a state. I'm saying, what is it exactly? It's a district, and it's supposed to be independent. It's not supposed to be it's not supposed to be biased, because it's supposed to be where everybody meets, all parties meet, all different viewpoints meet, and we're supposed to get justice out of that, and the law evenly applied. To make a request, otherwise the National Guard cannot be deployed legally. So if you don't have this, okay, the National Guard cannot be deployed. Biden's DOD Director of Defense, Inspector General himself said the Trump administration DOD did not delay or obstruct their response on January 6th, and Mayor Bowser and the Capitol Police repeatedly in writing refused the National Guard. And that's in the report, and that's in the DOD records. And I wonder why so many people aren't asking for it. So there's records of this. What do you know? Okay, Mark Meadows, the nasty Italian, says, there you go, glass of wine, American flag, Italian fag. There you go. Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff, told Fox News Sunday morning, Futures with Maria Bartiromo, that Trump issued a direct order to have 10,000 troops ready. Kash Patel, you say, what's going on with this guy? He's blind. So when you see Kash Patel, who's from India, which you would consider not a white person or person of color, Kash Patel suggested 20,000 troops. So Trump opted to 20,000. Okay, Kash Patel suggested, so Trump jumped. Okay, so he asked for 10,000. Kash Patel requested, hey, make it 20,000. So Trump upped, hey, that sounds good. Sounds like Trump. More is good. More is always better. Bigger, more is better. He was turned down by Bowser and Pelosi. So, and here is and I'm going to give you the link. So this is the document. And let's see. Okay. All right. Now we're going to, Twitter. Oh my God. Okay. I just want to make sure that there's something. Okay. Sorry, it's so dry in here. Okay. Wow. To be clear, the District of Columbia is set out. Oh my, this thing, I can't get it bigger. Anyway, I'll give you the link. I don't think I can discuss. Anyway, this is your evidence. This is your evidence right here. It's on Twitter. The link. This is the link to Twitter, and you could probably, in fact, I clicked on this and the other things disappeared, but I think this document got smaller. Requesting the other federal law. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't read it. But I should go get my magnifying glass. Anyway, this circled red place is your proof. If I go and get it might take a few minutes, and I kind of want to end this. I didn't expect it to be this long, actually. But I suppose I'm bringing out information, evidence, and talking about other things that happened on that day. So, and I will give you the link. So let me come back to see you again. Here we go. Okay, there it is. And so I will stop the screen. Isn't this crazy? It was like, You click, 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 and it's like there's got to be a screen sharing thing than this, because or live streaming thing than this. I'm sorry, you know what? It's 4:23 in the morning where I live, and so I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty tired. It's been a long day, but I thought I would get this in because I saw this and I'm saying, you know what? People aren't exactly talking about this bit, and the other things that happen, but this particular bit, and sometimes people don't realize you really have to, because you kind of see the stuff that's blasted in your face on the news, and then you see the newspapers and magazines, and then the MSM. If you look, I'm going to look on the computer, and the search engine. Remember, Google said after Trump was elected that for 2020 they said that they were going to adjust the search engine to influence the election the other way, that they could influence 25 million people depending on how the search results are ranked. They came out and said this. I'm not making this up, but I remember them saying this, and they came out and said, I'm sure you can find this. I'm sure there's somebody you can even ask who's reliable that will affirm what I'm saying. And it's like, I heard them come out and say this. So maybe they thought that the people who voted for Trump were misinformed, right? And so they adjusted the search engine so that if you're looking for something, you'll be informed correctly, as you should think, because that'd be a better world if everybody thunk a certain way, right? Anyway, so when you are bombarded, you go on the internet and you see all these different things and you don't realize, keep searching, keep working that search engine, ask it different ways. And I went through them, and then Dan Bongino, he was Secret Service, is kind of reliable. And so the source is coming from him, but he's reporting on, and he's showing you the facts there. So it looks like there was a meeting, and there could be, Trump's own proof of that particular meeting probably was in the whole vast things, the stuff that all the paperwork of his tenure in office every day and what happened each day. So if you kind of looked at all that, if you looked at the paper trail of everything from his entire presidency, that evidence is probably in there. That's where it is. And you might want to safeguard that, because if somebody's, if you're going to, you would want to bring that forward, wouldn't you? If it's in the vast, the stuff that you get together of your tenure in office, and you kind of want to put it in chronological order. So when you open your library, as presidents always do, you've got all your stuff. You've got, this is everything I did. And you want it. Can you imagine how he would design his presidential life, which they do when they're alive, by the way. This isn't like after their death. And you'd come in and maybe be all virtual, and you could experience his entire president. Can you imagine how he would do it up brown? They call do it up brown, which means is do it up fancy, do it up the top level. That's an old expression. In the olden days, brown was really meant something great. But now, for some reason, we think that people don't like the word brown, or people, you know what I'm saying? It's interesting. It's kind of like when you actually do look back, it's not really but that's the top. When you do it up brown, I mean, you don't ignore any details. You use the best of everything, the best ingredients, let's say, if there's gold, use gold. Just diamond and jewels, you use those too. Use everything great. So can you imagine what that would be? Anyway, so if you got to the end here, you just got some, interesting information. If you got to the end, you got some interesting information. I'm sorry I can't edit this like my phone doesn't have any storage, so I kind of so I'm doing it this way now. So anyway, so God bless you for getting to the end, because all this information is actually kind of important, and I would cut this out if I could, but I can't. I'm sorry. But anyway, God bless you for getting to the end. And so Pence wants to bid for the White House. He's going to testify. I'm sure he's going to testify. Don't you worry. Matt Whitaker, the ADA, the assistant AAG, Assistant Attorney General, said that Pence is an upstanding person, upright guy. He's an upright guy. But can you imagine? I think that there's probably a lot of people, if Pence, a born-again Christian, testifies, he's testifying for the good of the country, and you do what you feel is best for the country. When he's going to testify, I'm sure that's what he's considering. He wants what's best for the country, but he believes the best of the country. We can only do what we believe is the best thing to do, is best for the country. And so he's going to testify. And he's a born-again Christian, as we all know. We talked about it the other night, but I still took those down. I'm sorry it was so long. I apologize. So, Jesus is forgiving, or actually, I was saying, if you're born again, you're going to go to heaven no matter what, which is great. So he's a born-again Christian, and so he's an upright guy, and he's going to do what's best for the country, what he believes is best for the country. And he's going to run for president. But I hope Jesus is with him, and I hope Jesus testifies with him, and I hope Jesus is always with him and always protecting him, and that Mike Pence does do the right thing. And I'm sure he will. Don't worry about it. You can talk to Jesus yourself, but don't worry about it. Pray to God yourself. Don't worry about it. But I can imagine that when people hear his testimony, they'll believe it. Whatever he says, they will believe it, because he is a born-again Christian and he's an upright man. And they will believe him. And this might be exactly it. That may be it. Exactly. Peaceful. And that would be testifying for a committee is very, very peaceful. It's the peaceful way to do it. It's a peaceful way to get the truth out. Excellent. Whoever thought of that, that's terrific. Liz Cheney, you're doing a great job. Mike Pence, you're doing an even better job. And thank you for everything that you've done. But did you think that the option of and they were going to put this forward until the protest happened. They were going to do this. I hear that they were going to do this until when the protest happened, they quashed the whole thing. There were some senators, representatives saying that, they're going to say that, why don't we look at this for 10 days? Why don't we just examine things for 10 days? Just to see if everything is on the up and up, and the people outside feel that things were on. This is what they feel. I'm not saying it's true, but this is what they were feeling. Just going by maybe the best way to deal with people who are upset, people who aren't thinking straight, people who don't have the right information. They have wrong think. They're not. They have disinformation, which results in wrong think, right? So, and they're upset. So you want to de-escalate. You kind of want to quell these people, calm things down, right? Simmer down, right? And a good idea to do that, to make people feel that their voices were heard. They still have a say in their government if they feel, or the information, disinformation that is given them, that something is wrong. A lot of people saw everything that happened. People were very confused. People were very depressed. People were very anxious. I mean, between the COVID lockdowns and the riots, and then the election, and people worried about what would happen to America. We want America in good hands. We want people to do the right thing for Americans and make sure everybody's happy and healthy and not afraid or intimidated. And they're the government of the people, for the people, by the people, that it remains such, of the people, for the people, by the people, and our representatives are supposed to speak for us. So they will speak for us, and they do the right thing, and they know that we are suffering, and lest it become very, very, very difficult to survive. These people are concerned about this. So if you say to them, even if they're out there, they're all, 10 days, we're going to look everything over. So everybody go home, 10 days, we're not going to certify it now. Okay? I can imagine a lot of people would have walked away. If there's some people that didn't, well, then there you go. And they still want to cause trouble. But the people who want to peacefully protest said, okay, they're going to give it 10 days and they're going to look at everything. Kind of, that's the way, like they said, Mike Pence quelled the whole thing. How he stepped in and did something that Trump didn't want to do, but refused to do. He was just, out of it in some way. People, that's the point of the rally, was that people wanted their voices heard. They wanted to see him again. They were afraid, and they wanted to hear him and see him, because they felt things were going to change in a big way, and this country was going to be crumbling. It wasn't going to be prosperous. It was going to be in a deficit of some kind. The government was going to be out of their hands, or they were actually, it wouldn't no longer be of the people, for the people, and by the people, but it would be flipped like it is in a socialist, communistic, fascistic way. Complete control, where people did not have the say. So I think that's what people were concerned about. And if you say, all right, we've heard you, you're upset. That's why Trump wanted to give them one, just have their say. They wanted to be heard, to see him, to feel strong, that America wasn't disappearing. Our rights, our freedoms, our the prosperous country that we had under Trump, and the fact that the economy was turning around. Remember, he wanted to reopen the country in May. He said that's enough for the lockdown, which is like 2 months after the lockdown. We have to open back up. I remember him saying that on TV. I'm not a doctor, so I can't speak for this. I'm not an expert on this, and I don't want they said how many millions of people, Americans alone, would die. He said, I can't have that under my watch. That'd be awful if I was remembered for that. All right. May came. He said, we got to open up. We got to start things over again. At that time, I think maybe at that time things were different, but it had kind of worn on everyone in a very sad way after the line. I think there used to be an idea, like most psychologists are liberals, right? Psychiatry, the whole profession. And it used to be, they would say, this is what people are feeling. This is what people have experienced. So they're tired and they're worn out and they're afraid. And they kind of speak for when people have been the victim of, good, upstanding people were being told to lock down as if they did something wrong, to wear masks as if, and then every time we see anybody, it reminds of a burglar. First time I saw someone before the mandate of the mask, I was walking under the train tracks and across, and I was going to get my groceries, and it's kind of like an area where it's not safe, but that's where the underpass is. That's how you get, is you're going to walk to the store. And somebody was coming towards me. It was a man. It's Caucasian. I just tell you, very white skin. I could see that with the white skin. And he was wearing basically mostly black, and he had a bandana that was black and white. You know, like you see the hippies wear. A lot of them have a red one, like paisley thing, like that old-fashioned thing, and then a black thing around his head. But usually when you see movies, when people would rob something, they'd be dressed in black and their mouth would be covered, right? So I'm doing psychological, but their skin would also be white. Their skin was always white. Okay, that's right. Okay, but this guy was white and skinny, very skinny, tall, skinny, and I saw him coming towards me, and I was attacked by a man who was, in fact, he had the thing, just the eyes exposed, and the thing over thing, and I actually got scared because there's a guy coming towards me whose nose and mouth was covered, like. But so we got used to seeing this, and you see yourself as a criminal. It makes you think you're a criminal, right? Everybody, diverse peoples, race, religions, ethnicities, people were feeling they were living amongst. You didn't see people's faces, even in the sunshine. It's very sad. But psychologists, psychiatrists, the liberals usually pull all these things out about what made the person get to this point. You know, they take the critical, psychologically, I guess they still do that to that extent. Like, what's their life experience? And that's why criminals are being given the benefit of the doubt, because they might have experienced something in their childhood that brought them to this place. Well, it's kind of like all of us. We were experiencing something that was horrible, and that we were locked down, and we all looked like criminals. And we couldn't breathe. They didn't want our breath. You don't want your breath because there's too much carbon coming out and killing the planet, because we know plants never breathe in carbon dioxide because it kills them. Talking about plants, and also we became faceless. We became faceless. So there's a psychology behind when people endure something for so long, and then they feel they wanted hope, and they wanted the economy that we had, the people employed, more minorities employed than ever before, opportunity zones, wars ending and successfully ending in the Middle East. Successfully, we don't leave lots of things. The prosperity of the country, that this was ending, that there would be no hope. It would just get a world, like Biden said, we're coming into the Christmas in the 2021 Christmas, into a time of darkness and death, because we're not getting the jab, time of darkness and death. And we were told one thing, and now it's something completely different. But we're looking forward that we wouldn't be entering a time of darkness and death and spiraling downwards. And people didn't want that to happen. And we kind of suspected some things. I won't go any further. But psychologically, you would think the liberal psychologists, psychiatrists would say, this is the mind, this is what's going on. And you would think that the government would understand, or would start to, I don't know, you can't expect the government, they've got to protect. They've got to protect themselves and the government of the United States, so we continue experiencing truth, justice, and the American way, and goodness for all, and innocent before being proven guilty, or innocent and then proven guilty. And the weight is on the prosecution, not the defense. It's actually easier for the defense than the prosecution, and the Constitution must prove their case. So that's the country that we had. That's a country we always want to be, and a prosperous nation of mostly happy, peaceful people. And yes, innocent until proven guilty. That's the country that we look forward to, and that's the country that we have now. And so everybody should be happy, right? Well, anyway, oh, yeah. So I was thinking that, if they gave us the 10 days, or they gave us, I want to say us, I mean Americans, America, the 10 days, at least that might have actually made people feel that they were heard. And I know this administration always does for us, makes us feel like we really exist and what we're heard and are heard. And they're always looking towards our future. It's great Biden came back, aviator sunglasses on, so he can't see us. I don't know. Maybe he can see. I'm sure, sometimes those expensive, I think they were $221 sunglasses. The expensive ones, they look dark, but they can, on the other side, they can see everything very clearly. You have to, look through them. And I know a friend who had a pair. Oh, wow, that's amazing, these sunglasses. So I don't know. He could have had one of those pairs. And he was vacationing, and I think there was $20 million to rent the house in South Carolina that he was renting. Is that Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? Yeah, $20 million. So we know we know that he hears us, and he knows, just like Bill Clinton said, I feel your pain. We know that Biden understands under those conditions, and Hunter went with them in the private. That's great. That is just, I hope he's rested up and he's going to come back and continue doing for the American people. As we've heard the administration say, this is for the American people. It's for the American people. But anyway, God bless you. God bless America. God bless our president and vice president. They're doing a terrific job. And justice, I'm sure the January committee is going to justice, and the truth is going to be told. It is. And people will have more confidence in Pence. They'll think, when they hear him, he wouldn't lie. And he's a born-again Christian. I mean, there are penalties for lying in his faith. Jesus is not going to be happy about it. So, anyway, you just continue being law-abiding, to continue being a good person. And you can pray to the same God Mike Pence does. He believes in Jesus, even though we feel that Jesus is being, during lockdowns, the churches were closed for our own safety. And then an entire town had to go to one grocery store between certain shortened hours. So everybody goes to the same place, which is brilliant thinking, between a shortened amount of hours, instead of kind of spread out to a lot of places, which means we'd be spreading out the virus, wouldn't it? But pot stores, and if it's legal, whether you have pot stores and alcohol stores were open, but church, there's the spreader with that communion. That's the super spreader of the churches. So it's good that they were closed. But Pence says he believes in Jesus. So it's okay to believe in Jesus. Just inside, talk to him. Okay. Anyway, so that'd be great to have a born-again Christian president. That'd be wonderful. And he's an upright guy. Pence makes sense. Remember that. Pence makes sense. Anyway, God bless all of you, and see you soon. I'm sorry. This was longer than I thought. Okay, bye-bye. Click.